Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Are you someone who seems to be struggling just a little bit? If you're writing something and you're trying to figure out how to do it, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be writing a brochure, it could be writing a virtual sales letter, it could be writing a book, it could be finishing your dissertation. Then today's the day because I have Alison Miller on our podcast, and she is going to talk to you about that. So my name is Charisse Walker, your host, and without further ado, Alison, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm Alison Miller, and I have a PhD in clinical psychology. And for the last 25 years, I've been an academic entrepreneur. And I actually started my first business, the Dissertation Coach, when I, surprise, 6 months after I got married, found out I was pregnant.
Mhm.
So actually, my entrepreneurial journey was started by becoming a mother. And I have been coaching and working with academic writers for 25 years. And I've learned a lot about how do we not only get ourselves to do the writing we need to do, but how do we do things that are hard? How do we do things that are we don't know how to do them yet? And also how do we do what's important when we have so many things competing for our time and attention all the time? So 20 years into running this academic coaching consulting company, the Dissertation Coach, when the pandemic hit, we responded to the pandemic by offering free Zoom co-working sessions to clients of our company. And pretty quickly, I realized that that was the most fun I'd ever had was leading these sessions, and I wasn't going to be able to stop it. So we turned it into a new business, the Academic Writers Space, which is a community where we show up and we co-work together. We're on Zoom together while we're doing our work. And then luckily I was able to sell the Dissertation Coach so I could really focus on this. And I think that we've learned a lot in our community that is applicable to people outside of academia about how do we write? How do we do things that are hard? How do we manage how did it get to be this way? We are so busy. Everyone's so busy, so pressed for time, that we actually lose our ability to function well or optimally inside the time that we do have.
I honestly was literally just having that mental conversation with myself today. Today is a recording day, right? So it's back to back to back interviews. And this is my side hustle. This isn't my make me money so that I can support my family type thing. And so it's interesting because you can get pulled in so many different directions. And it is really hard to be like, okay, I gotta narrow it down again. How did I find myself overwhelmed with stuff that isn't as important? There was
Yeah.
somebody I was talking to yesterday, and she has built 100 million, like 100 million plus business, and she's just doing really, really well. And as we were talking, she's just like, Trace, when I first got started, I didn't hire any coaches. I had this one coach, that's it. And that's all I focused on for 3 years. I did not get sidetracked. And because of that, it paid off. And she's doing incredibly well. And now she has multiple businesses. As an entrepreneur, we all get sidetracked and we like squirrel. We're always looking at different things. And it's really hard not to get distracted. But that is the killer. And
Yeah. I think what's really important for all of us to remember is that we all get 24 hours in a day. But the
Mhm.
idea of time management, you really can't manage time. Time is indifferent to your efforts to manage it. And we can manage ourselves and we can learn to. And everything I'm talking about in this podcast, I want to make sure the listeners know this is all aspirational. You're not going to do any of this perfectly. It's really a direction to move in, to point yourself in. Your presence as a human being makes time more usable. If I'm over here, I've got a document here that I'm working on, and I let go of the other things that are competing for my time and attention temporarily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like on the mainland, there's a million things to do. Our job to really be able to do what matters, produce the results we want to produce, make things happen, feel proud of ourselves, is to take one or two of the items on the mainland and go to an island with them.
Yeah.
where we are really giving our presence, our energy, our brain power, our effort, right? Our attention to something, and we're learning and training ourselves. And this is because we have so much nervous system dysregulation going on that we end up working in scattered reactive ways. And what I'm talking about is self-governance, that we are recognizing that despite the lies that my brain tells me, I actually am not good at multitasking. Well, really, we're not even multitasking. What we're actually doing is we're switch tasking.
Right.
Every time you switch from this to this, that costs you some energy. You just spent some of your energy allotment for the day in switching tasks that could have been spent over on the island with the thing you were working on. And this is interesting because the research shows that when people do a lot of switch tasking throughout the day, you don't remember as much. You make more mistakes. It's inefficient. And it's actually taxing and tiring for us to work that way. So if I was going to like write out on a prescription pad for people of how to manage and navigate the millions of things it seems like you have to do every day, you have to get them out of your head onto paper where you can see them and you can recognize what are the things that you're intending to do and needing to do, and see if you can all day long do less at a time. Many of us are trying to do too much simultaneously. Like if you open, let's say, QuickBooks on your computer and it takes a little while to load, you won't just sit there and wait the 30 seconds for it to load. You're going to go off and quick get an email done. Okay. We get into this kind of behavior. We're constantly moving. And if we start paying attention to what our body has to say about that way of working, we're going to recognize pretty quickly that our body does not like it.
Yeah.
That it's actually not working for us. It's not producing the results we want. And it's not allowing us to have the quality of well-being in the context of work that we desire.
Amen. And it's so true. I don't know if you've heard of the Pomodoro technique, but
Yes.
research has shown that when you get off track, it takes 20 minutes to be able to focus and get back on. Because, like, a good example, last night I stayed up to like 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, I am not going to go to bed till I finish. Like, I'm writing this workbook for my book. And I mean, come on, it's been almost a year and I've rewritten it like multiple times. And so I've just kept putting it off because I'm like, oh, I don't know how I want to format it. I don't know. There's too many questions, blah, blah, blah. And finally, I just said, enough is enough. Like, it's been a year since I've talked about this and that I've finished my book. There's no reason why I don't have this workbook done yet. And so it's like I have put off everything else. And it's hard because I got to practice my own medicine, because as a realtor and as a lender, I have all these different people who are calling, Charisse, we need to meet, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I'm like, sorry, I'm putting a pause. I've got to finish this because when you have so many unfinished projects on your plate, it starts to wear on you and it starts to pull you down. And I don't want to use the word depressed, but overwhelmed or feeling lack of confidence. I mean, you name it. Those are the gamut, because then you're feeling like a failure because you're not getting anything done. You have a lot of unfinished projects everywhere. And it's so true. The 12-week year is a good example. If you focus on 3 things you want to accomplish in 3 months, then you'll get them done. And then after those 3 months, now let's go focus on 3 more things instead of I have to do all this stuff.
If you got in your car and someone had thrown a bucket of mud across your windshield, before you went and drove down the street, you would clean off the windshield. But many of us are moving into our workday with a mud-covered windshield. We don't have clarity for ourselves. What is it that I am choosing to do? And what am I choosing not to do? We don't have those kinds of boundaries in place where it's clear to us. I think one of the ways we've gotten into this habit is because it's very easy to start your day by going to your email inbox, and you're basically just spending hours responding to emails. And what's really happening is that other people's priorities are becoming your priorities. And we start to lose contact with, wait, what's my mission? What am I here for? What's important to me? What do I care about? What does it mean for me to operate with integrity and really do what's most important. We have to step back and ask ourselves those kinds of questions over and over and over again. I also want to just add something that I don't hear talked about near enough. And partly because there isn't necessarily an easy solution for this. I think one of the things that's really impacting our ability to work in a more focused way, where we're bringing our presence to the task and we're able to work with things in a more isolated way, is I would say two things. One is we prematurely are focusing on the product or the performance, like we're performing prematurely. What you were saying in that example about writing, we often are engaging with our writing like we need to know how it's going to sound at the end.
Right.
But actually, most of the time that you're engaging with writing, you're in the process of creating something, and it is a messy process. If we can learn to lower our standards in early, like for example, early drafting or in the first attempt at something, and recognize that there is a process that occurs over time, it's easier to get in to do the work when you don't have perfectionistic, unrealistic ideals that when they're unattainable, you know what you'll do is you'll avoid the work, because you're avoiding the pain of not being able to live up to a standard that you never could have lived up to in the first place. So learning to lower our standards and then raise them over time as we develop what we're doing can go a long way. The other thing, and this is really the piece that I don't think is talked about near enough, I think that we need more co-regulation with other people. We need more engaging with really difficult tasks around people who are also doing the same, and recommitting once again to slowing down, de-intensifying, lowering our standards so they're appropriate for the stage that we're at, getting really, really clear about what we're doing, setting boundaries, that we can feel the support of others. But in some ways, it's almost like we need to borrow other people's nervous systems to be able to hold the frame of somebody who is actually bringing their presence and is taming this chronic switch tasking that's degrading the quality of their work and really of their life.
Beautifully said. I just want to say amen to that, because it is true. It's very, very true. And we have to make sure that we like, choose what's important. I say this to my husband sometimes with our kids, that I'm like, choose your battles. Because not everything needs to be a battle. And sometimes you can just let things go because it doesn't matter in the long run. Like, is this serving me and is this making me happy? Or is this just something I feel like I have to do because I feel obligated to do it? And so getting to writing what you do, how do you, I know that you talked about you sold your business and now you have a new one. So how did you get into that, where you thought, this is what I want to focus on and this is how I'm helping it? And what is it doing for people?
Are you talking about the co-working community?
Yeah.
Well, when the pandemic started, we were immediately concerned about our individual clients that we worked with, either in a coaching or consulting capacity at the Dissertation Coach, because grad school is already pretty isolating. And we had clients all over the world, some who were living in places where the lockdowns were quite severe. So we thought, well, let's get together a few times a week and we'll be on Zoom, but we'll all be there doing our work, but we'll just be on Zoom together. So we designed these sessions where a facilitator comes on. I mean, in the beginning, it was just me, who would do like an opening talk to set the stage for people to focus, concentrate, and get to work. And then everyone turns off their camera and we go off and we work for 45 minutes. But we stay on the Zoom call and we share our goals in the chat. And then we would come back 45 minutes later and find out, how did it go? Well, what was successful? What wasn't? What would you do differently next time? We would take questions and crowdsource and support one another. Then we'd go off and do a second round of work. And then we would come back at the end for like a close. And much to my surprise, this was a shockingly effective way for people to work, and that you can be in community with others in a way that really nurtures and supports you to show up and do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. And that having other people there, and we've created a culture of kindness and a culture of compassion for people to show up and do hard things in, to feel like people see you and support you. So it's really a surprise career change for me. This is not something I expected, but once I started leading the sessions, it was like finding out like I had like a secret skill that I didn't know I had, was just how joyful it was to create opening talks and thought leadership for people about how do we work in a way that actually works, that works in terms of producing results, and that it works because it centers our own well-being in the process.
That is genius. Because I was just thinking that like any industry could actually do this, because entrepreneurs who work from home and they, like you said, they get distracted and they don't hyper focus on what they're supposed to be doing. What a genius way to help people say, okay, let's do this. Because if you log on, that's the first thing, is just making the step to log on. And once you do that, now it's like, okay, I have 45 minutes of uninterrupted time to be able to focus and write my paper or what I need to do, because a dissertation, let's be honest, is really tough.
Yeah, it really is. I love to say you have 45 expansive minutes because your presence makes time more usable.
Yeah, that's what a genius idea. And at the end, people are happy because they feel accomplished and like they've done something, right? So then it makes you feel good too.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. We joke that there's probably no group of people that use the emoticons in Zoom more than we do. I mean, this is when I'm leading a session, this is just a constant. And if somebody has a big win, this is one of our favorites. So this is one of my favorites.
So nice.
Right. But just the idea of like, I see you, I feel you. We don't have to compete with each other. Like we can all succeed here together. And I see you're doing hard things. And we get to see each other move through days that aren't so great and then days that go better. And then eventually we see people get articles published, people defend dissertations and earn graduate degrees. We see people through the struggle and we realize the struggle is part of the process. There's nothing wrong with me when I struggle. When I'm struggling, it means I'm struggling right now. How can I care for myself now? Really what we're learning to do in our community, and this would be advice I would give to everyone, which is there's enormous benefit to learning to observe the version of you who's present now in the moment, and to work with the version of you who showed up to work. Because the version of us who shows up to work is often not the version we imagined when we made our work plan.
Right. Oh, that's so good. So how do you find your clients?
Mainly social media and word of mouth. So I put videos on Instagram and TikTok, mostly just giving free advice, but that does attract and draw in people. And we have our members refer people. It's pretty frequent that someone's coming who said, oh, my friend can't stop talking about this community, so I had to come check it out. We set up our community so that anybody who wants to try it can actually do 2 full weeks for free.
Oh, wow.
They can have like a half a month experience of what would it be like to show up? And we have members who come to multiple sessions a day. We offer 25, usually actually more, 25 plus co-working sessions every single week. So we've got people from all over the world coming and co-working together. Yeah, so I invite people, if you're curious, you can do it for 2 weeks for free. And we don't force people into a membership. You don't put down a credit card to get that 2 free weeks. I don't like when businesses operate that way. It's a version of capitalism I don't want to subscribe to. What I hope for people that co-work in this way, and by the way, your listeners could set up your own group of people that are going to meet a few times a week and co-work together on Zoom. You can do it with each other. I really hope that people who come through our community, not only do they feel like they're able to show up and work effectively and consistently in a way that's sustainable for them, but they start to recognize that all of the conversations that we are having about our relationship with our work are also relevant to our relationships with other human beings.
Yep. That's very,
right?
very
Because we are relating with the version of us who's shown up. And sometimes the version of us who shows up to work, shows up to relate is actually not compatible with healthy human relating. And if you know that's what's going on, you're super irritable, for example, maybe you will manage yourself differently to protect the people around you from your irritability.
good point. That's a really good point. So you've been doing it for almost 5 years now then, right? Because it was during the pandemic.
Yeah, March 19th will be the first, will be 5 years since our first co-working session.
Congrats on that. So looking back, what do you wish you would have known then starting out that you know now?
A lesson I had to learn more than once the hard way. As an entrepreneur, if you've hired someone and it's not working, and you know it's not working, but your mind has all kinds of reasons of why you can't fire them, you need to let them go.
Yeah.
It's better for both parties if it's not working. I allowed some relationships to go on longer than I should have, you know. And I'm going to say something because this is some advice I need to follow right now. And this is apparently a lesson that I need to learn over and over and again, which is when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you know something isn't working and you're so overwhelmed by how to fix it that you just allow the thing that isn't working to keep happening, like a piece of your infrastructure. It's really not efficient. It's not working well, but it's going to be expensive. It's going to be really time consuming. You don't know how to do it, whatever your stories are. And then years can go by when it would have been better if you'd ripped off the Band-Aid and just dealt with it and made the change, and you would have saved yourself untold amount of labor, angst, time, energy, and probably would have built a more successful business sooner.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Very good advice. And last piece of advice is if you are sitting on a park bench and a 9-month pregnant mother comes up to you and she sits down next to you, you start talking, and your children are older now. So you kind of flash back to all the different phases. What is one piece of advice that you would give that new mother?
Slow down. Just slow things down so you can listen to yourself. Because you as a mother, when you really get quiet and you slow down and you listen to yourself, maternal instincts are very, very powerful. And many of us were done harm in the way that we were raised, and we desire not to continue doing it, but it is in our programming. But I do really believe that the maternal instincts that we have can override that. And we move so quick and we feel so much pressure, and you don't have to mother the way anybody else is mothering. You don't have to, you have instincts that if you slow down and get quiet, you will hear that will guide you.
Thank you. That is really good advice. Fantastic. All right. So if our listeners wanted to find you, how would they do that?
You could go to our website. It's the Academic Writers Space. So it's writers with an S and then space with an S. It's at the academicwriterspace.com. And you can come and co-work with us for a couple of weeks for free. On the bottom of our homepage is my calendar link. You can actually schedule a meeting with me to learn more. And you can follow us if you look up the Academic Writer Space on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. You will find us there. And you can I put out videos fairly frequently where you can get a little dose of these kinds of ideas.
That is great. Thank you so much for being on.
Glad to be here. A pleasure.
And Unbreakable Moms, if you unpacked anything, slow down is a good piece of advice, and really taking little bites at a time and focusing on something and just finish it and then move on to the next thing. You don't have to have 50 balls up in the air, because eventually they're all going to fall, because you do get tired. So I hope that you take this advice and go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.